The world of medicine is one that is supposed to be based on helping people. But unfortunately, there have been countless instances of unethical practices within the industry, from large pharmaceutical companies selling contaminated drugs knowingly to unnecessary procedures being performed on veterans. It's clear that there are significant issues that need to be addressed. In this BBBB Buzz video, we'll dive into some of the most significant medical scandals of the past decade, with a particular focus on those that have occurred in poor areas and countries. Let's start with one of the most egregious examples of pharmaceutical companies knowingly selling contaminated drugs. The case of the New England Compounding Center. In 2012, this Massachusetts-based company was responsible for producing a steroid injection that was contaminated with a deadly fungus. This outbreak of fungal meningitis caused 64 deaths and over 750 illnesses across 20 states. It was later discovered that the company had knowingly shipped out drugs that were not properly sterilized, and had even ignored warnings from their own employees about the unsafe conditions in their facilities. Another scandal that has come to light in recent years is the unnecessary procedures that have been performed on veterans by the Veterans Health Administration (VHA). In 2018, it was reported that the VHA had been performing needless cardiac procedures on veterans in order to meet performance standards and receive bonuses. These unnecessary procedures not only put the veterans at risk, but also wasted valuable resources and taxpayer money. Large pharmaceutical companies have also been known to attempt to falsely market drugs for the masses. One example is the case of Purdue Pharma, the makers of the highly addictive opioid OxyContin. Purdue Pharma has been accused of downplaying the risks of addiction associated with their drug and falsely marketing it as less addictive than other opioids. This led to a massive increase in opioid addiction and overdose deaths across the United States, particularly in rural and low-income areas. Incentives that disregard the well-being of patients have also been a major issue in the medical industry. For example, some doctors and hospitals have been known to perform unnecessary surgeries or tests in order to boost their profits, even if these procedures are not in the best interest of the patient. This has been particularly problematic in low-income areas where patients may not have the resources to seek out second opinions or alternative treatments. Now, let's shift our focus to the pharmaceutical companies that have produced the COVID-19 vaccine. While the vaccines have been instrumental in helping to slow the spread of the virus, some of the companies involved have had their fair share of scandals in the past 20 years. Johnson, for example, has faced numerous lawsuits related to their tau-based products, which have been linked to ovarian cancer. Pfizer, makers of one of the COVID-19 vaccines, has also faced lawsuits related to their drug Lipidem, which has been linked to an increased risk of diabetes. Finally, it's important to note that those who speak out against unethical practices in the medical industry often face retaliation. Whistleblowers who report on misconduct within their companies may find themselves facing job loss, harassment, or even legal action. Some have even disappeared or died suddenly under suspicious circumstances. This is a disturbing trend that needs to be addressed in order to ensure that those who come forward with important information are protected and that unethical practices are brought to light. To give some context on the large corporations mentioned in this script, Let's take a closer look at some of the biggest players in the pharmaceutical industry. Johnson is a massive conglomerate that produces everything from medical devices to consumer goods. They have been in business for over 130 years and are known for their baby products, Band-Aids, and Tylenol. Pfizer is another pharmaceutical giant that was founded in 1849 and is known for producing drugs such as Viagra and Lipitor. Purdue Pharma, as mentioned earlier, was found guilty of pushing opioids onto the public and misleading doctors and patients about the addictive nature of these drugs. In 2019, they reached a settlement of $8.3 billion prices. Other major pharmaceutical companies have also faced lawsuits for their role in fueling the opioid epidemic, including Johnson & Johnson, which was ordered to pay $572 million in 2019 for its role in Oklahoma's opioid crisis. In addition to the opioid epidemic, there have been numerous other scandals involving large pharmaceutical companies. One notable example is the case of Mylan, the makers of EpiPen, a life-saving device used to treat severe allergic reactions. In 2016, it was revealed that Mylan had raised the price of EpiPens by over 500% since acquiring the device in 2007. The price hike caused outrage and led to a congressional investigation. Mylan eventually settled with the U.S. government for $465 million. Another scandal involved Johnson & Johnson, which was found to have known for decades that its talc-based baby powder contained asbestos, a known carcinogen. The company was ordered to pay $7 billion in damages to 22 women who claimed that the powder caused their ovarian cancer. In 2019, Teva Pharmaceuticals, one of the world's largest generic drug manufacturers, was accused of conspiring to raise the price of generic drugs, costing Americans billions of dollars. The lawsuit, which involved 44 states and the District of Columbia, alleged that Teva and other companies colluded to inflate prices and reduce competition. One of the biggest medical scandals of recent years involved the French company Servier, which was found to have known for decades that its diabetes drug, Mediator, could cause serious heart problems. The drug was eventually linked to hundreds of deaths and thousands of hospitalizations. Servier was fined €7 million in order to compensate victims in France. These scandals and many others show the need for greater accountability and transparency in the pharmaceutical industry. The pursuit of profit should never come at the cost of people's health and well-being. It is important for governments and regulatory bodies to hold companies accountable for their actions and to ensure that patients receive safe and effective treatments. In conclusion, unethical medical treatments, particularly those in poor areas and countries, have been a pervasive issue for decades. Large pharmaceutical companies have been found guilty of selling contaminated drugs, pushing addictive opioids, and inflating prices for life-saving medications. The pursuit of profit at the expense of patients' well-being is unacceptable and must be stopped. We must stand in solidarity with those who have been affected by these unethical practices and demand greater accountability and transparency from the pharmaceutical industry.